Literally, as Donald Trump was announcing his boneheaded trade war, Fox News was running it, and they were showing in real time the Dow Jones responding to this announcement. Take a look.
But so we're going April 2nd, but very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States.
Yeah, that's one thing that you could do long term. And as I said in the very beginning of this, if you wanted to be honest and upfront with the American people and say, I care so much about our industries, the industries we have and the industries that we've lost, that I'm gonna do these tariffs. I'm gonna start a trade war. And man, it's gonna hurt. And in a variety of different ways, I, as a billionaire, I'm gonna find ways that I share your pain, which you will never obviously do. But don't worry, we will then build factories. And it's gonna be a tough year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but in the end, we'll be stronger. He didn't do that. That's not how he sold it, which is both dishonest and also politically a really bad call. Because now when the damage starts, your base isn't prepared for it. If you'd been honest and upfront, then they perhaps would be. They'll be like, yeah, he did say at rallies for 2 years that this is gonna hurt for a while, but that's not what he said. And so expect that this is gonna hurt him politically. But in the short term, as you saw in that video, it's hurting the Dow Jones. It dropped 1.8%, just like in real time as he was saying that. S&P 500 fell 2.1%, was its worst day of the year. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite slid 3%. Nvidia was already down more than 9%. And I wanna be clear about this. The stock market went down as he announced this yesterday. It had already been going down for days and days and days at this point. This was just the single biggest blow to hit the economy, which has already been battered with tiny little blows throughout. And so I thought it would be fun to just do a little bit of a flashback to the campaign. Again, a campaign where he could have been honest with his base and he chose not to, doesn't respect them, whatever. He was worried about a market downturn, but it was gonna have a different cause in his telling. He said, of course there's a massive market downturn. Kamala is even worse than Crooked Joe. Markets will never accept the radical left lunatic that destroyed San Francisco and California as a whole. Next move, the Great Depression of 2024. You can't play games with markets. Kamala crash. You remember that when for like 48 hours they were talking about the Kamala crash? And then the stock market went back up and indeed trended up throughout the rest of the year and ended at record levels. And they didn't talk about it anymore, and yet they still lost the election. So I guess the joke was on Harris, I suppose. But yeah, you can't play games with markets unless I stand to gain and I could buy a bunch of stock. Then I should probably play games with markets. And so it was a Kamala crash. When having nothing to do with Kamala Harris because she wasn't in power, the market briefly for a day went down. Is it a Trump crash? When we say, hey, if you do X, the market's going down. And then he's like, I'm doing X, baby. And he does it and the market goes down. Hashtag Trump crash. Why are we not seeing that everywhere? He did this. He wasn't just president while it happened. He did it. He was warned and he was either too stupid or too corrupt to know to back off. And we're now going to pay for it. And by the way, I think we have a little bit more from Fox News as they were noticing the real-time consequences of this.
You said people are freaking out and the market's freaking out a little bit right now, a lot, I should say, down about 729 points right now. What's your take on why that is, Kevin?
You've got two forces at play here. We're talking about affordability czar because the price of eggs and housing and energy are not showing any signs of declining at this point, and we were even concerned until we see the Jobs Act later this week, or the jobs numbers. What the economy looks like, and so there's that uncertainty. And then you've got tariffs could be coming on tomorrow on Mexico and Canada, massive trading partners. And to a certain extent, over the long period of time, they would be inflationary, particularly on things like lumber for housing. And the lumber industry just yesterday and today said, look, we can't make up this capacity for at least 4 to 5 years. And so that would put a lot of pressure on housing prices.
Look, I understand. I don't want to just freak out for no reason. That would only be bad if America was facing like a housing shortage or a housing crisis, which I don't think that we have. I haven't heard anything about that, so it's probably going to be fine. But right now, I'm looking at lumber prices, lumber futures, I should say, a tracker for prices. And let's see. So on the day of the election, lumber was at the futures were less than 600. It's more than 10%. It's up 30% in the past 6 months. So, it was pretty good right up until the election. I'm looking at it. You can just Google lumber prices on Google, and it's been trending up ever since. Why? Because Donald Trump has been talking about tariffs. And do you know what Canada has? Maple syrup. But you know where that comes from? Trees, I'm pretty sure. It's either trees or moose. But we have tariffs on both of those things right now. And so that's going to do a lot of damage for construction. But why would we expect that a guy like Donald Trump with his life history would care at all about construction? And so, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty. When you have a deranged, deluded madman in charge, there's gonna be some of that. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?